Hey everybody, good night or good evening, and this is Susan, and Marilyn is here with me, and we are going to be looking at the first part of Dr. A's Habits of Health, and covering chapter 1 tonight on our Mighty Mondays. And this information is so helpful. This is the program. If you only just eat out of the packets, once you stop that, you have nothing to give you good support. But when you learn these different things and give you a good foundation, then that will help us to keep it off and to continually getting better and better and more healthy. So anyway, glad you're joining us and watching this tonight. And there's some good information in the forwards, and I'm going to start looking on page 8 in the forward. So it's the little Roman numeral 8. And this is by a guy named Dr. Robert Fritz, and he and Dr. A are actually very good friends. I like him because he's a really well-known musician and done a lot of creative kind of things, but he and Dr. A have come up with so many ways of how the mind works and these different theories for helping us to develop lifelong patterns. Was there anything that stood out to you in that forward there, Marilyn?
I'm re-looking at it because it was a couple days ago that I looked at it.
Well, that's okay.
But mostly just, how just the habits and how we're triggered to, most of the time we don't even think of the choices we make, and just being more aware of choices that we make.
Totally. That's very good. Yeah, and he says he helps to lead us down the, instead of the lifelong patterns that lead us down the wrong path, we'll replace them with these new helpful practices. And so being mindful, like you said, and we'll talk farther in the book here about stop, challenge, choose, and just learning to have our mind involved in the whole decision process and not just mindlessly eating, which most of us do. And part of the goal is they want us to help have the highest level of health created before we face life-threatening problems. And definitely would rather avoid having life-threatening problems, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And that was another good thing that I thought that he talked about, was the reason he got into this was to not treat diseases, but to prevent them before they happen.
Exactly. And that I'd never had thought about that angle of things before.
I know. I had.
On 10, he says, his goal isn't merely to help us to reach our desired weight. It's to instill in us the habits that support a lifetime process of achieving the highest state of health possible. And I like that because it's like it is that long-term approach. And that's what drew me to the program from the beginning. Was it wasn't just another diet, because diets don't work. 85% of people that do diets put it back on within 2 years. And hey, a lot of people in our company are beating those statistics because they have put the time in to learn the habits that'll help us. And then on page 11, it's a second forward, and this is by Dr. Lawrence or Larry Cheskin, and he's actually with the Johns Hopkins weight loss clinic. I think he's one of the founders of that, but he's also like one of the medical directors for our company. And I know when I was at the event in February, he came up and was talking just about how solid things are and the different levels of research that they do. And so much scientific formulation goes into these little packets that make it possible. So it kind of is magic food. It helps us to lose the weight. And does anything in particular stand out in his writing that caught your eye?
I did highlight here that it's when he says that a simple, practical way for people to change their habits and lifestyles by building on small, easy, almost imperceptible steps. It might not seem like that's going to help, but he says that, when you try to do a dramatic break, that doesn't really work so well. But change is often easiest and easy to do when it's permanent and it's a gradual journey.
Yeah.
So the gradual and consistent really kind of stuck out to me.
No, that's great. That's perfect, because that is encapsulating it all, because it is those micro habits of health that we want to build upon, and all those little changes are what make the big changes in our life and make it possible to stay off. I thought it was amazing that it said that in the U.S. alone, excess weight, obesity, and inactivity are reportedly responsible for about 300,000 deaths every year. It's like, wow, that's a lot of people. And that was back, I think he wrote this in 2008. So I don't know what the statistics are right now. And he was saying that at least 66% of American adults are now overweight or obese. And I think just about any place we go and look around, you can kind of get a feel for that one.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yep. I also thought it was interesting. They said adults make at least 200 food choices every day. And it wasn't.
Yeah, that's wild.
And like, you don't think about it, but it's all those little things. But how many times do we think about food, or what are we going to have, and what we're not going to have, and how much we're going to eat, and where we're going to go? And it's like,
Yeah.
that's a lot of times in a day. But and right below the section where you read too, it's like they also said reaching a healthy weight is a starting point and not an end point. And so remembering that, hey, this is a journey, and told a couple people today already that it's like, hey, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know, we want to keep learning this and make it solid and make it stick. And one step at a time, we're going to keep going here. And then he's got a little thing of the introduction there. It starts like on page like 17 of the little Roman numerals. That was interesting. The sideboard on page 18 said, some physicians don't think patients have it in them to lose weight. Just read what one writer in the Journal of the American Medical Association had to say about patient motivation. Many believe humankind does not have the self-control to counterbalance the forces that create a predictable wave of obesity in a technology advancing society. And Dr. Andersen said, when I read this, it made my skin crawl. It's a bunch of hogwash. But I mean, I kind of felt like that when my doctor, he didn't have any really good answers for me. He wanted me to consider gastric bypass or some other program that I don't know what it was. And he said, but they give you shots, and I want you to go to this particular place, and couldn't find anything else. But he didn't have anything else to offer me. And so to find a program that actually works and gives us the hope and gives us the ways to change is like amazing. We don't have to have medical degrees, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't play well on TV and stuff, but when it comes to the losing weight and getting healthy, awesome. Let's figure it out, and we can do it. And
yeah, you've proven that.
It's like we're trying. When it said it comes down to daily choices, and we can do that. The small errors of judgment in what you eat, in how much you move or don't move, and other habits that seem insignificant, but that snowball until one day you realize that you feel heavy, tired, and sick. But if you can stop this out of control scenario dead in its tracks, he's going to give us the knowledge, skills, and support to put us back into the driver's seat. And working together and part of that whole thing.
Yeah.
And let's see. I know we get back to about page 21. He's talking that losing weight is only half the battle, that his goal is to help us create permanent weight loss, to support us in living not only a longer life, but one that's focused on what matters most. How many people do you know that grow really old, but they've got no quality of life? So we're wanting you to have the length and have the quality while we're living. Hey, Lori, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Lost track of time. Sorry.
No problem. We're glad you joined us. And got Marilyn down here. Can't get her video working on her computer, but
I was wondering who that was. Hello.
Yeah, sorry. It's Marilyn Miller.
She's the box on the screen. Love it. That's This is Lori
Yeah.
Coffey. I don't know. Have you guys met? Do you know each other?
I don't think so. Maybe if
No.
I saw her, I'd recognize her.
No. Well, hey, one of these days we'll be getting together and we'll see each other in the thing here. So either
Yeah.
you guys have anything from chapter 1? Chapter 1 starts on page 3 of the normal numbers.
Are
And,
you asking me? I couldn't find my book, so
she's doing
I
a
know.
writing project and not sure what happened there.
Yeah. I did find my Barry Sachs mouthpiece today. I was very glad. I had no idea where all that stuff disappeared to. So anyway, I'll shut up so we can continue with the book.
No, it's all good. So, hey, what stood out to you in chapter 1, Marilyn?
Chapter 1 about this was interesting, all about the food industry and how the high fructose, and I had heard and read a little bit about high fructose corn syrup before reading the book, but one of the things I didn't realize is how, it's addicting and it fools your mind and brain to think that you're not full. And so you keep eating. And then it doesn't metabolize in your system at all. It just goes straight to your liver and then gets stored as fat.
Huh.
It's scary, isn't it? It's like, man, you eat all this stuff and wow, this food scientist can do that stuff. I think I had a post on my wall that I picked up someplace about Doritos being that way, where they were designed with just the right balance and the stuff to make you keep eating more. And it's like, man, that's crazy. But right.
I know.
Go ahead.
After reading all about the food, it's like you don't want to eat anything.
Yeah, it makes you glad to be eating the healthy side of choices. It makes them a little easier, and the more you eat them, honestly, the better they taste to you too. I think that you have to kind of get back into eating that other stuff if you want to. It's like, keep eating the healthy stuff.
I haven't eaten anything yet. Lori, I'm just 5 days on the program.
Oh, well, good. How you doing so far?
So far, so good. I told Susan yesterday that I was hungry, and she did tell me to eat another bar, but I wasn't weighing my lean and green. So
Okay.
tonight I feel full. I weighed my food.
Right. I was really surprised. I didn't weigh mine at first, and when I finally got around to it, I figured I'd only been eating about 2 ounces of chicken. So I was glad I started weighing it.
I know. I was too tonight. I went, whoa, that's a lot of shrimp. Nice.
Yeah.
It makes a difference here. Yeah, because you really, once you're into it, you shouldn't be feeling hungry. Most people don't. Sometimes you do, but hey, the goal isn't to make you miserable, but to get you healthy here. So.
Yeah, I do feel better. I mean, I already feel better.
Good.
Just in 5 days.
Yep. Oh, you're doing great. It's exciting. I love to see the changes in here. I love this quote by Thomas Edison. It's on page 8 that says, "The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." If only current medical folks had done that, because, man, current medicine is so focused on sick care instead of health care. And he said he's geared to curing illness rather than creating health and well-being. So we're out about trying to create health and well-being. And, hey, we're thankful to have doctors there that can cure disease when necessary. But, I'd much rather avoid having those diseases if at all possible. Like,
sure.
Anything else?
And feeling better longer.
Say what?
And feeling better longer, like the chart on page 9.
Exactly. Yep. We'll take that for sure. He projects it out there to 100 years. So it's like, oh boy.
Now, whoa, wait a minute there.
He's in his, I think he's in his 60s, and like today he's out heli skiing, where these helicopters take him up to some really high levels, and then they ski down these major slopes. And
wow. Can't imagine.
Me either.
No.
I'll check. Well, and on page 10, I think it's interesting too, talking about all the fad diets and then the whole failure of being on diets. And there was an article out, I don't know, it was New York Times, someplace this year, that was talking about some of the biggest loser contestants and how they'd lose all this weight, but then boom, they'd put it back on and more. And as you lose weight, especially when you're using it in an unhealthy, fast, not necessarily nutritious way, it really slows down your metabolism. And so you lose all this weight, but then when you go back to even eating less than you were eating before, the weight can come on so much quicker because you don't have the metabolism. And I remember too, like thinking that kind of made some sense to me too, because when you weigh 300 pounds, your body, just to exist naturally, is going to be burning a lot more calories. So now that I'm not quite half of that, but close to getting to half of that. So my body's not going to need as much to move me around in just normal expenditure of calories. So if I go back to my old 300 calorie Susan eating patterns, no wonder it's going to pile right back on. Or if you go back to your old habits, no wonder it's going to pile on more, because you've got you're not burning as much just by existing anymore.
Right.
And then it said it gets harder for your system when you're out of whack. And if you lower your carbs, fat, or protein by the wrong percentage, your body will develop cravings. And your chance of maintaining that weight loss is like a dog trying to stay away from a juicy porterhouse steak. And that made sense. I think your body craves certain things, and if we're feeding it what it needs, that's why we don't have cravings on our program. When you're eating everything, you're getting all the nutrition and all the vitamins, the minerals. You get the balance of protein and carbs, and it makes you satisfied. Anything else popping out to you, Miss Marilyn?
No, not really. I mean, the one comment I did like over here about people that think that all you have to do is exercise to lose weight, says on the sidebar, to lose weight through exercise alone, you need to work out strenuously for 90 minutes every day.
Yeah.
Now, who could do that? I couldn't work out 90 minutes strenuously for one day.
And you figure there's 3,500 calories in a pound, that either you have to eat that many to put one on or burn off that many. And I don't have the stats here, but someplace it was almost like you'd have to run a marathon a day to lose. It's just like, it was so unrealistic. It's like, okay, to really burn enough calories, there's no way. So it makes sense why just exercise alone doesn't help you lose. And there's a gal, Marilyn, too, I don't know if I've told you, there's a book on Amazon. It's a free book for the Kindle. And it's called Weight Loss, but it's WAIT loss. But it's very interesting, and she got very much into exercise, and she actually did some training like with Billy Blanks. She was big into kickboxing, and ended up even having her own studio. She found, she was kind of midlife and middle age kind of thing, and those gyms and stuff weren't set up. So she set out and created her own gym where everybody could feel welcome, and called it Sweaty Chicks. Sounds like us working with Linda. But she said, if you notice, she would work out and she'd be teaching all these classes and stuff, but she still had a belly. And she's like, what's up with this? But then she was talking about when they burn so many calories, they do all that stuff, your body wants to also hold on to some of the fat. So she said, look around your aerobics class sometime and you'll see all these ladies that exercise all the time have this little tiny belly in there. It's like your body is storing it. And so with our system, it's going in and helping to burn that. That's why we don't need to exercise to lose the weight in our program. Exercise is obviously healthy, but not required to actually get to the weight loss goals for the first part of our journey here.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, guys, that's the main stuff I had in there. Is there anything else that you thought of? crossed my mind? Anything yet, Lori?
Not that I can remember from that far back. I don't remember what's in chapter 1.
Well, I said our bodies are programmed to hold on to calories for survival. But of course, nowadays food is so readily available, and we tend to be less active, so it doesn't quite apply. And just as a tip for anybody watching too, you might want to take your book and you can take it to a Staples or Office Max, and they will whack off the end of it and then spiral bind it for you. And I think it's maybe $6 to $8 or something per book. But for the workbook and for this book, it just makes it so much easier to be able to flip pages. And so I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. And anyway, well, that will conclude our first night. I'm going to stop the recording here. And then next Monday night, we'll hit chapter 2.